So are avoidants the main reason that relationships fail?
They're making the playing field unequal. They're setting the odds against themselves by being in this losing position, by being in this vulnerable role, I guess. And that's definitely something I did. Right?
It's interesting you should say that, because actually when you were doing those things, when you were throwing a tantrum or being upset or like crying and being emotional, it was really difficult for me to not feel responsible and guilty, even if I didn't really do anything quite so extreme and you were just triggered about something or whatever. It was a major weak point for me that I felt was exploited. Like time and time again. See, you're right there. Points in case. Time and time again, until I think some avoidants just reach a point where they're just like, I can't.
Yeah.
You know, I am overwhelmed. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Attachment Diaries. I'm Gabriel.
I'm Karolina.
And today we're talking about whether avoidants are the main reason relationships fail. So the reason we're deciding to talk about this is because a lot of our recent videos centered around avoidance have gotten a lot of very strong opinions about avoidance kind of being to blame about relationship problems as a whole. And a lot of the theme seems to be, if avoidants were just different, if they were just better, if they weren't being avoidant, relationships would have more success. So are avoidants the main reason relationships fail?
Yes.
I figured.
Okay, I guess we're done.
Yeah, we're done. It's settled.
I don't think it's quite so simple, unfortunately. And you can say the same about anxious people, right? If only anxious or anxiously leaning people, if only they were more confident, if only they needed less reassurance, if only they could just relax and take things one day at a time and not rush, right? Relationships wouldn't fail. So it's not fair to pin everything on avoidance. It's not fair to pin everything on the other partner either. May they be an avoidant themselves or anxious or whatever attachment styles. A romantic relationship is a relationship between two adults, two consenting adults. So I think it's fair to assume, for the most cases, that the blame is 50-50.
Right.
Because you're both on equal position. It's not, people do assign all these labels like narcissist or avoidant or just player, using me. And sure, there are cases where this is true, where you are truly with someone who is deceiving you or manipulating you. But these are fringe cases. In most cases, you're with someone who is on the same playing field as you are. So if you let them walk all over you, that's on you, unfortunately.
Okay, so you should be pulling your own weight, taking responsibility of whatever part of the relationship you could improve.
Yeah. Or if something's not working for you, you should bring it up to your partner's doorstep and not just complain about it behind their back.
So before we move on to what can be done or ought to be done, why is it that people blame avoidance though?
I think it's always easy to blame your partner, to seek fault in another person, rather than have a more objective and realistic view of the situation. It's also that, well, the avoidance let them down and hurt them, so they're angry. So they're directing their anger and their pain and their hurt at the person who hurt them in some way, which is kind of natural. But there's also an element in it that avoidants don't want to accept any responsibility. So I think that's where some frustration might come from. like avoidants often play this card like, oh, if you don't like it, you should just move on. You should just find someone else, which is like a good way of deflecting arguments, right? But I think it's more interesting if we bring it to our relationship, to ground it in reality a little bit and say who was to blame for our problems.
You, obviously. No, I'll take my 50%.
You'll take your 50%?
I'll take my 50. My avoidant 50%. And you can have your anxious 50%.
I would say it is 50-50, always. And even if your biggest flaw is not standing up for yourself or not communicating, that is still your shortcoming.
Yeah, and we have talked pretty thoroughly about my shortcomings as an avoidant and things I have done.
Yes.
My 50%. So let's turn the tables. What about your 50%? What about, what is it that anxious people or leaning anxious are often not taking responsibility for?
Themselves?
Right?
I think everybody in the context of a relationship is a bit regressed to like a child role. Avoidants are too in their own ways. That's why they're so passive and helpless. But anxious people are like, can be like children crying in a corner, throwing a tantrum, screaming and shouting, chasing, being or just being very scared and being emotionally very vulnerable and raw. And because of this, they're making the playing field unequal. They're setting the odds against themselves by being in this losing position, by being in this vulnerable role, I guess. And that's definitely something I did. Right?
It's interesting you should say that, because actually when you were doing those things, when you were throwing a tantrum or being upset or like crying and being emotional, it was really difficult for me to not feel responsible and guilty, even if I didn't really do anything quite so extreme and you were just triggered about something or whatever. It was a major weak point for me that I felt was exploited. Like time and time again. See, you're right there. Point in case. Time and time again, until I think some avoidants just reach a point where they're just like, I can't anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I am overwhelmed. So I would say it's not. It's I would say it's not just putting yourself at a disadvantage. I think
it's manipulating with emotions.
Can very well manipulate that way.
Yes.
And the person feels responsible, and you know, I didn't want you to suffer. I didn't want you to be upset.
Yeah.
And even though I may have felt overwhelmed and needed space and time, which is, you know, the classic avoidant phrases, there was no room for that. It was just like, no,
I need this now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So let's talk about that. How is that a weakness? Or is it both?
It's definitely a weakness, because you're losing your partner's respect when you act like this. I feel like you are being like a kid. You are being raw and often very like just laying all your feelings out there, or very desperate, which leads to being taken for granted. So that's how it's a weakness. But it's also a flaw because of what you said. It is, you know, manipulative. It is like I know what I'm doing, much like avoidants know what they're doing when they're playing power games. And I find this responsibility you're describing, I find is often a bit over the top for avoidants. Like that is their weakness.
They take too much.
And they can't say no, and they can't set boundaries. The only way they can set boundaries is by distancing themselves. And it often comes from having had overbearing parents, for example, right? So you're kind of taught to,
Right.
which fits,
Yeah.
to take
To
responsibility.
be the parent to your
to
parents.
yeah. So they have that weakness. Anxious people sense it, and they exploit it.
Mm.
Much like anxious people have a weakness that avoidants exploit
Right.
with the insecurity,
Yeah.
right? And even when it comes to this, I would say it's again 50-50. Because on one hand, avoidants are to blame because they can't set boundaries and they can't vocalize where they're at.
Right.
And they could do that better. But
Yeah.
at the same time, anxious people could just read the room and stop imposing and stop being the drama queen
Yeah.
and, be a bit less selfish. And this is maybe a big one, because I find everybody in a relationship feels like they give more than their partner.
And in most cases also feels like their partner is at fault.
Yes.
Because I felt no different, right?
Yes.
If only you changed this and that about
Yes.
your
If
behavior,
only I learned to listen.
or
If
weren't
only
so
I learned to
anxious,
admit mistakes. I
weren't
wasn't
so
sorry.
emotional. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. If only you weren't so scared
Yeah.
of commitment.
Yeah. So what's really important to keep in mind, I think, is this balanced view. Like today,
Yes.
when there's a problem we have, I think there's something I'm not seeing. Most likely, I might think you're being unreasonable, you're overreacting, something to that effect.
Mm.
But we've been through this so many times that I know, okay, there's something to learn from me here. What am I not seeing? And inevitably, when we talk about it, when we figure it out, I realize, okay, there are behaviors on my end that I could change. There's something I could do better as well. And it is 50-50. It's not like
It's always 50-50.
all on me, it's not
Yes.
all on you. To come back to this form of guilt tripping to have your needs met, it really is often the spiral that anxious and avoidants find themselves in. That the anxious person has an unmet need, they try to communicate it, they don't feel it's heard, they
Or
communicate,
avoidants pull away and they dismiss it.
or it can start there, but it escalates, right? The anxious person will dial it up. The avoidant feels they want to withdraw, but they might feel compelled or responsible or guilty enough to stay. And then until it's resolved, until the anxious person feels like they got the comfort or reassurance they needed. But then that happens over and
It's
over
never
and
enough.
over again. Yeah. To a point where the avoidant tendencies manifest, right? Where somebody might have initially been very emotionally supportive and listening and always there and always available. Like I hear this with clients. And then suddenly they're just avoidant, and clearly they must be an avoidant. Yeah, but maybe you did things that contributed to that.
You made them
being,
avoid it.
yeah, or you not necessarily made them avoidant, but you put them on a path for that to become more likely, let's say.
I would say it's almost always the case, because the anxious avoidant dynamic, it tends to unfold over time. It's almost never there in the beginning. I don't think it was in the beginning between us either.
I would say the template was there.
Yeah.
The potential for it because of our predispositions, but
It's just your delusion. That's the thing, avoidants have false sense of safety more, and like a bit like, oh, like my partner always cares more than I do, so therefore I don't need to worry.
yeah.
But I think it was pretty equal.
So what you're suggesting, it could have gone the other way? I doubt that.
You doubt that? I think for most of my other relationships, it had gone the other way.
That you were the avoidant?
Yes, I was always the avoidant. I was never anxious before I met you.
Yeah, because you weren't into the guys.
Well, initially I would be, but then I lost feelings,
I mean, from what I remember, from
Yeah.
what you told me.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I mean, they weren't me. I get it. But so you were avoidant in those circumstances.
Yes.
Okay.
And even with friends, I would be the avoidant, like the person who pulls away.
Because I mean, we've talked about fluidity of
Yes.
attachment styles, right? It's not like set in stone, and you can be avoidant with one person and anxious with another, or secure.
And some people are just always anxious in every situation too.
Yeah, that happens
So
as well. Yeah.
it all depends, right?
Yeah.
But it is sort of like a box that you're putting yourself in.
So we gradually kind of built that dynamic.
Yes.
Slowly.
Yeah. Or it just emerged.
Yeah. Where you previously were avoidant in relationships, you became anxious. And I had been anxious in relationships, and I was avoidant with you. So
we brought the best in each other.
we brought out the best in each other. I'm so happy we did this.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm loving this podcast. This is super comfortable, all the topics we're talking about.
Yeah, I love it too. Should we switch?
No.
Don't worry, we'll edit it out, or just leave it, and I won't tell you since I do the editing. So, yeah, I mean, it's not, you're not wrong. It was in all the interactions that we had that we kind of built this dynamic more and more, where we solidified our roles.
And it
where I was the avoidant,
and it escalated.
You were the anxious. Yeah. And it escalated to a point where that was our default. And that's why sometimes I hear clients say, I used to be secure, and then I met this person, and then I became anxious.
Yeah.
Like, what happened?
You know what I find most interesting? That almost nobody identifies as avoidant. Next to nobody does. And I think that's why it's so easy to make them responsible and pin the blame on them, because nobody sees themselves as avoidant. And it's like, so many times I talk to someone in a coaching call and they tell me, I'm leaning anxious, I'm anxious. And I have to point it out. Look, you've been dragging your feet about commitment for 6 months. You haven't been reaching out. You're just quiet. You're passive. You're the avoidant. You're both avoidants. And then they're like, oh.
Right.
Because it's like a blind spot, I guess.
No. Because the avoidant, which brings us back to the topic, right? The avoidant is the villain in many ways.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's not a comfortable position to be in, to say you're the avoidant. It's better to be the quote unquote victim, right?
Yes, it is, yeah.
That you're the anxious person.
Yeah. The honest, the genuine, the caring, the loving,
the giving, the chasing, and all that, right?
Yeah.
But it's rarely so simple. There are cases where it is clear cut, but I would say even with us, right, there were areas where you were more avoidant.
Definitely.
And I was more anxious.
Yes.
And vice versa. And like, I would say overall, there was a tendency on my side regarding like commitment and the longevity and the future and whatnot. But when it came to certain aspects of being emotionally close, you were the avoidant.
Yes.
That's where you would back out, be more scared. So not only is it
more passive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not only is it 50-50 in terms of responsibility, the lines are blurry in terms of who's avoidant, who's anxious, when it's circumstantial, which sort of brings me to the core of this that I wanted to emphasize, which is that people have this awareness that in relationships, the blame game is not a good thing, right? When it's like, okay, we're having an argument, we're fighting about who's right and who's wrong. Okay, that's not healthy, right? People understand that. You have to try active listening. You have to try understand each other and all that stuff. But when it comes to attachment styles, it can reach a point where it's used as a form of blame game, where it just defaults to you're avoidant, you're to blame, and that's
You're deactivating.
You're deactivating. How dare you? Yeah. So that's end of discussion. You're the difficult one. You're the problem. You're ruining this relationship. And you need to fix it. You need to go to therapy. You need to read this book. You need to, rather than, okay, maybe I need to not just blame and think of this one person having all the problems,
or
and I
or to
have a part in
admit,
this.
what am I avoiding? Because I find this is like a type of personality, caretaker. And I find caretakers actually do have a tendency to do that, to pin the blame or to hyper focus on someone else, right? And to shift the attention away from themselves.
Right.
And the question they should be asking themselves actually is like, what am I deflecting here?
What am I avoiding?
What am I
Not
avoiding?
want what I'm
Yes.
avoiding, right?
Yeah. And I often have coaching clients who will start a whole call, use almost the whole call to share all the details of their partner's childhood and all their issues.
Right.
And all this history and minute details.
Why they're so defective.
Yes, and all the like where their behaviors stem from, and the things they see that their partners are blind to, like unhealthy relationship with your mom or your dad being super critical or something like that, right? But it's all about the other person and nothing's about themselves.
And that other person is generally an avoidant.
And the other person is, the avoidant. And they might be an avoidant. And all the things they're saying are true and valid.
Yeah.
But this overemphasis on your partner and neglect of yourself in itself is a problem. And you're creating this dynamic where you're hyper-focused on your partner and neglecting yourself. And that is a problem that you should be talking about. And it'd be much more productive to talk about why you're doing this, why you have this tendency to do this, than to talk about your partner's problems. Because you can't fix your partner's problems. You can only fix your own problems.
Yeah. Sometimes people identify themselves as being fixers, right? They find projects that are extremely challenging, as in a partner, and they try to fix them from the ground up. But as you say, you can't control that. You can't fix someone. You can only fix yourself. And there is always something you can work on.
And if you are fixing someone, if you're picking a project, you might want to ask yourself, why am I picking a project?
Right.
Why don't I want to pick someone who's on an equal playing field with me?
Yeah. And maybe because you see that in this person being healed and fixed, if you succeed, that somehow would allow you to
be happy.
Or right, the story sometimes is, if I can find someone that is emotionally unavailable, that is an avoidant, that checks all these boxes, but I can heal them and I can help them grow up and be close and want all the closeness and intimacy and commitment, then I'm lovable. Then I'm worthy of love, or something to that effect, which again points to, okay, there's work I need to do on myself. Like if I believe that my ability to be loved requires me to be able to fix somebody else externally and go on this lengthy journey, which is basically impossible. You cannot fix somebody. They can only fix themselves. Then there's work for you to do for yourself before you go out and try and fix them.
Yeah. And also there is the flip side of it, which is when they don't love me, when they're not giving, right? It means I'm not lovable.
Yes, exactly. It's a toxic trap you're then stuck in, because you need this person to validate you the whole time. This avoidant often.
Why is your value defined by how someone else is treating you?
Yeah.
How, like, whether you're lovable or not. I mean,
you're codependent then, right?
The fact that someone might not feel lovable in itself is like, why?
Yeah.
Everyone's lovable.
Yeah. There's indication of something that can be done there. And these fixers are often anxious people, or they identify as anxious and fixers, right? So there's a part in there as an anxious person that could do with some healing, could do with some attention, could do with some love.
I can share what it was for me.
I was about to ask, actually.
It was quite interesting what I realized about myself. I don't know exactly when I realized this. I don't remember. But what I discovered was that I was actually afraid of the concept of a relationship. Like deep down, it scared me. The concept of love and feeling loved scared me. It felt like a trap. And it felt like something I couldn't do. So getting together with someone who was always somewhat one foot out alleviated that fear. I could focus on fixing you, and then I could be in a relationship where I'd be chasing, and in a way it was like my comfort zone, you know?
Because you weren't fully loved.
Yeah. I think we already talked about this. Had you been all in, I would have freaked out.
Right.
So this was my comfort zone. And I was like, oh my God, I'm afraid of feeling loved or being in like a committed relationship because somewhere on some level, I feel like it can't be real or it's a trap or something, right?
Yeah.
So being on this chase and hyperfixating on your partner is a good way to just preoccupy yourself. It's a good distraction from working on yourself and your own fears and your own issues.
Yeah.
And I think a second thing was also deciding what I'm truly wanting. Because we all have vague ideas of what we're wanting. But it's a bit like with food or workouts. Like you say you want one thing, but then you kind of do another. Or even with like productivity or hobbies. Like you say you want to pursue something, but then in the end, you don't. And it's the same in relationships. People say, I want commitment. I want to get married. I want to have a family. But if you're pursuing people who never want these things, chances are you don't want these things either.
What do you really want?
And it's okay, you know, maybe you don't.
Or you don't feel ready. Or that's like your journey.
Yeah.
Right? That you do want it, but you're afraid, or there are hurdles for you to overcome before you get to that. So you pick people that are not going to give you that yet, or have the potential
because
to
you
give you
don't want
that.
it right now.
Yeah. Or it's a bit like how relationships are often a healing fantasy, right? We do pick someone that has the potential to give us what we want. And it goes both ways. And if you both heal and grow together, then you can achieve the goals you have set out for yourself and as a couple. But it's a journey, it's a process, right? If you jumped in with somebody that was immediately giving you the commitments you say you want, you might find reasons to bail or sabotage because you don't feel ready. You don't feel lovable, or love feels like a trap, or whatever it might be. Had I been all in, right?
Yeah.
Immediately.
And I find it's also hard. Relationships are hard. And you have to compromise. And you have to be willing to compromise. And you're not always going to get 100% of what you want. So in some ways, it is settling. I mean, you have to be ready to settle for some things.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mean settling as a whole, but you know.
It's okay, I won't take it personally. I'll just cry later.
I mean, like, agreeing to buy the pillowcases, you know, you don't necessarily want, which is more of your problem than my problem. Or agree to, I don't know, have to have an immaculate kitchen when you're a slob.
Or not or not have your emotional needs met.
Yes.
Right? Like in their entirety. You're getting some of what you want, but not everything.
Yeah. And you have to accept, okay, like think of it, is this good enough for me? Is it what I want? Is it what I'm looking for? And I find anxious people can just be so focused on the ideal of what they're chasing after, and then find someone who maybe has no chance of ever fulfilling those needs. Like, for example, right, a classic case would be if you're dating a man who never committed and you're already in your 50s or 60s.
Right.
There's a low chance that this person
they have a history of not committing.
Yes.
Every
Will be
year they're gonna get a new
exactly.
partner or something.
Or just be a lone wolf.
Yeah.
And then you either say, okay, this kind of detached relationship where we have huge amounts of independence and distance and unspoken commitment to each other is what I'm actually looking for.
Then great.
Then great. And we're both two independent adults, right? And we can do it like this, and cool, we're cool. Or you can continue chasing this person for the dream of like having the full commitment, right? When you choose someone, like, be honest with yourself about the expectations or what you're really looking for, because I find in what we choose, we all often manifest what we're actually looking for. And that was true for me too. Like, I chose a guy who wasn't exactly available because I was afraid of the full-on commitment.
You're an avoidant. In this regard, you were.
In this regard, yeah. And then when I finally accepted that about myself, it made everything better.
Right. Yeah, like to illustrate this with a client story or stories, I've just seen so many of the cases where somebody picks, and it is with the people I've worked with, mostly women that identify as anxiously attached, and they'll pick people they identify as avoidant that are emotionally removed, reserved, maybe in extreme cases have never been in a committed relationship, are like maybe socially isolated, are staying in their room afraid of going out, don't want family, don't want children, don't want marriage. And with this person, they want a child, marriage, to go out and do things, committed relationship, emotional availability. So they actively have selected the most difficult, challenging case possible. And like you were saying, right, be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you're truly wanting all of these boxes ticked, there are people or men out there that want children and commitment and marriage and are good to go.
Yeah.
Like, there are people that meet and marry
I speak to them.
in 2 months of meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's the other extreme. But I think it's one thing to have been love bombed and by this avoidant, right? That shows you a side of themselves where you're like, wow, this is amazing. It's everything I wanted. And then it turns around, and then suddenly they have all the characteristics of an avoidant. I get that. It's like a trap, right?
Then chances are you have been played to whatever degree.
Yes, but I think it goes both ways too. I think everybody puts their best foot forward.
Yeah.
And on the anxious side, they will also demonstrate characteristics that they maybe won't uphold long term. But regardless, the point is, if 2 months in, 3 months in, you're seeing pretty consistent avoidant behavior or anxious behavior, whatever it might be, that doesn't align with what you want, that's okay. And you don't have to stay, right? If it's truly not in alignment with what you want, then
why are you staying?
Why are you staying? Because if you are, then maybe this is what you want. Maybe this is what you're comfortable with. And that's okay too. But it'll be a lot more productive in this relationship
if you admit it.
If you admit it to yourself and admit, I have issues I need to work on too as an anxious person. Why am I choosing an avoidant? Why am I choosing to stay with an avoidant that is so unreasonably unavailable?
Why am I choosing to be with someone who ignores me or my needs or
doesn't answer or doesn't,
And it's a hard question to ask yourself.
Yeah. It's an uncomfortable question.
Yeah. I definitely did ask myself that question at some point. Why am I putting up with this? Or
why am I with this guy?
Yes. Who keeps on abandoning me? And it helped, And then I was like, I don't want this. I think that was my final conclusion. I was like, I did used to want this.
Right.
And it turns out now I don't want this. I'm good.
You believe the drama was also part of a proof of love even, right? Yeah.
That's what made it real and valid or romantic or something. That it'd be boring without it.
Yeah. And both of us had our growth
Yeah.
right? We changed, our beliefs changed a lot about ourselves, about each other. And had it just been me thinking, okay, you're all at fault, and if you finally changed the way I believe, what it boils down to most times is, if you were just like me, everything would be fine. Why are you not more like me?
And both anxious and avoidance, right? They both think that.
Yeah, deep
Yeah.
down, ultimately,
Everybody
thinks that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if the world was just filled with people that were carbon copy clones of me, we'd all just get along and it'd all be great.
For sure.
And I think it's hard to admit, that you have areas that you need to grow in, things that you're not seeing. It's uncomfortable to see yourself in a different light, in a negative light. But what I like to tell our students, and I think we also emphasize in our programs, is like, it's everybody. It's growth. It's part of being alive. And it's somehow strange that when it comes to any skill set that you learn or pick up in your day-to-day life, let's say you choose a career path and you have to invest a lot of time and energy in studying and honing that skill set, that's accepted. That's normal, right? You have to study and learn it. And as you go along, you will gain knowledge you previously did not have about this field. And that will eventually make you proficient or an expert. But when it comes to ourselves, we don't say, there are things about myself I don't know or don't see. And as I go along in my life, I can learn things and change who I am and admit that I didn't know things about myself.
It's very scary to admit things that you didn't know about yourself.
Yeah.
It's one of the scariest things.
But I think if you do it enough, it becomes something you just accept, like with knowledge. I previously didn't know this about myself.
I find that's why relationships are like a crash course on yourself. Because you don't know anything about yourself, and then your partner points it out.
Right. And it's not nice.
For the most part, no.
Yeah.
No.
It's not, oh, you look so great today.
I mean, you also get a bit of that.
Yeah. It's not just reminding you of everything you're doing wrong.
But it's also like, stop being so unsure of yourself.
Yeah, or avoidant, or anxious, or whatever it might be.
Why you're putting up with this? You know? That's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, why am I putting up with this?
Yeah. So, in essence, it's a two-way street, and the responsibility is very much something that needs to be balanced.
Yeah, and I find if you see yourself as the victim, and you see that all the fault is on your partner, or you think that all the fault lies with your partner, that in itself is a red flag.
Yeah.
Then that is why your avoidant might be well justified in leaving you. Because this like victim mentality, that's where you might become a narcissist. Like that's where it like can get very toxic, actually.
You're essentially chasing somebody, throwing personal growth books at them, telling them that they have to go to therapy, telling them that they're avoidant, telling them that they're broken, saying you need to fix yourself. And then you're surprised that this person might distance themselves and say,
not enjoy this treatment.
I'm not into this.
Yeah.
Like, unless you're willing to also admit you have areas where you might need to grow. And, it's maybe harsh to say and be so brutal about this, but I think we've just seen so many cases where this blind spot, this tunnel vision of just dumping it all on avoidance doorsteps is costing people their love life. Because if you continue down this path long enough, your avoidant partner will leave. They will eventually have enough.
Or everybody will leave.
Yeah.
Every partner you had will leave.
Yeah. Because you're not perfect. You have issues as many as your partners, admittedly in different areas, right?
Probably.
But
maybe not, maybe not even.
Yeah. Maybe not even what?
Not even in different areas. I find you were talking about the like middle-aged women, I guess, at like the last stages of wanting a family in this time when this is kind of your last moment to even try.
Yeah.
and then they pick men that were never in a relationship. I often find that they themselves, these women themselves, often were also never in a long-term relationship.
I see. It's the
Like,
same.
and a lot of the times your partner is much more like you than you'd like to admit, because we're all kind of similar. And I think you and me, we also were the same in certain aspects.
Yeah, no, definitely. We're not as original as we'd like to think.
Yeah.
We're human. We've been through similar life experiences, and we have
We have the
similar
same
problems,
emotional needs and
same emotional needs. Yeah.
same feelings about same experiences.
Yeah. So if we are to bring this back to the original question of whether avoidance are the main reason that relationships fail, what is your answer now? Have I changed your mind?
Yes.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, and we're all avoidant.
Okay. And we're all anxious.
And we're all anxious, yes.
And we're all secure sometimes too.
Yes.
It depends.
Yeah. Avoiding responsibility is the main reason why relationships fail. Or avoiding communication is the main reason relationships fail. So in that sense, both sides avoid it. And if you say, oh, but I keep on initiating, I keep on talking, I keep on trying to communicate, but all you're doing is just repeating yourself over and over again and never switching.
And pointing fingers.
And pointing fingers. Well, that's not communicating.
No, that's blaming.
That's blaming. That's scolding.
Yeah. And, it's very difficult to, like you were saying, take a look in the mirror and say, okay, maybe there are things I need to work on too. Because I think there's this trap where we get super comfortable with how we perceive ourselves. We think we know ourselves. We think we have it figured out, ourselves figured out. And in a way, I find that's the greatest delusion of all. Because when you look at the human being, we're so complex. We are a database of experiences, of memories, of often traumas. There's so much that goes into just one individual person. Like, we literally have the most complex organic computer in our heads, right? The most complex thing known to exist in this universe. And to think, yeah, I understand how this works, how I work fully and thoroughly. There's no stone unturned,
yeah.
is delusional.
Yeah.
You will always learn something new about yourself, and get comfortable with that. If you can get comfortable with that, you can have a lot more of what you want in your relationship, because you're okay saying, I guess I'm not perfect. I guess there's something I didn't see. I guess I did make a mistake, and I'm sorry.
Or I am acting like a child.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. And that will get you a lot further and help your communication and make your relationship and life so much more enjoyable. And we're saying this because we've walked this path and continue to. Like, this will never end. There'll never come a time where I say, I know everything about myself, or about you for that matter. And our students go down the same road, right? When they're like, oh, I learned something new today, a new perspective about myself I didn't consider.
Now I know I've been doing everything wrong.
Yeah.
They often say that.
Right.
And now I started doing it differently.
And I get results.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think there's a certain humility in it, basically, that you can say, okay, I don't know. I did make a mistake. I am flawed too. And that's okay, right? A reason people have a hard time admitting that it's also on them, that it is 50-50, all that, is because they associate being wrong with punishment, right? If I've done something wrong, if I am wrong, I deserve to be punished. There's retribution of some kind.
Or I deserve to be abandoned.
Or you deserve to be abandoned, right? But if you start developing more loving language towards yourself and your partner and say, it's okay for me to make mistakes. It's okay for me to be human, to not be perfect, and take my share of the blame, of the responsibility in this relationship, whether that's me being anxious or avoidant, whatever it might be. Life becomes a whole lot easier. Relationships become a whole lot easier than this push-pull and battle for power and control that just never ends.
I find we all might have a tendency to be stuck in this all or nothing mentality and fluctuating between extremes. So yes, the punishment or some sort of negative reinforcement is definitely like what drives it, or fear of that is what drives it. But when it comes to the view of our partners, or when it comes to the view of ourselves, I find people fluctuate. Like either he's the best, most loving, or she the best, most loving, most caring human being, and everything's perfect, and this is the love of my life, and we're meant to be together, or they're a narcissist
and avoidant
and are playing me and
right,
super toxic, and I'm just being used. And the same is true about ourselves. Either I'm blameless and
perfect,
I'm the angel of endless patience and giving, or I'm this like, there's something wrong with me, I'm defective, and I deserve to be abandoned.
Right.
And the truth is, you're neither of these things. You're not a perfect angel, but you also don't deserve to be abandoned or punished or anything like that.
Right.
You're just human. You're you're somewhere in between.
I think that's such an important point, that this fluctuating between these two extremes of how you perceive your partner and yourself is the tendency, that it is either I am perfect or I am despicable.
Yeah.
I shouldn't exist, right?
Yeah. Or I deserve to be alone forever.
Some kind of self-loathing, yeah. And easing out of that, I think easing out of that for me personally had huge positive impact on myself and our relationship, where I can say, okay, it's not either extreme. You know, I'm human, as you say, and sometimes I will mess up. Sometimes I'll have a good day and do things really well. And there are strengths I have, and there are weaknesses I have. And that's okay. I don't have to be perfect to be lovable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's a very freeing conclusion to make, to snap out of this fluctuating between the extremes and just face things as they are. And on one hand, is disappointing because the dream fades, right? But on the other hand, the like horrible future of loneliness and doom also fades.
Yeah. In a way, I find that the labels of right and wrong, or sometimes avoidant when it's loaded with blame, have very much to do with how we feel comfortable relating to others and ourselves. That it's easier to say the problem lies with you than it is with me or with both of us, because if it's also with me, it means something about me, right? And I jump from I'm perfect to I am
despicable.
Just something
flawed,
terrible,
broken, unlovable.
Right. And so if that's what you're trying to avoid, right? There's something to work on, like on your side, and I think everybody has that to some extent. And B, just putting it out there on your partner and calling them avoidant, to blame it all on them, is just a way you're avoiding the discomfort of looking in the mirror too. Yeah.
So you're both avoidant.
Yeah. In a way, you're avoiding different things.
Yeah.
And it's maybe not particularly comfortable to think of the world in a grayscale over just black and white, right and wrong, good and evil. But that's unfortunately closer, I mean, in our opinion, at least closer to reality, that there are good things about everybody and bad things.
Yeah. It's a bit of a childish view, the good and evil. It's a bit of a fairy tale view of the world. It's too simplistic.
Yeah, right. Reality falls somewhere in between.
Yeah.
It's maybe helpful to say in conclusion that a motivation to see yourself, your partner, the world in a more grayscale and understand that you have equal responsibility is actually way more empowering than just blaming someone, because you're giving them all the power to do whatever they want at that point. You can actually be a lot happier and get a lot more of what you want in the relationship when you say, okay, there are things I can do. I will also look inward and take responsibility for my share. And yes, sometimes my partner is showing avoidant tendencies. Sometimes they're anxious, and sometimes I'm avoidant, and sometimes I'm anxious, depending, rather than just cookie cutter mold and put everybody into a simple box.
Yeah, absolutely. There are no boxes, there are no categories. Everyone's somewhere in between.
And we
It's
might have
never,
tendencies.
yes. And some behaviors are not okay.
Yeah.
But the blame is always 50-50.
Yeah.
Almost always 50-50.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for listening. If you're listening to this, please leave a review. And for those of you watching, please like and subscribe if you find this helpful. And we'll catch you in the next episode.